أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد كما صليت على سيدنا إبراهيم وعلى آل سيدنا إبراهيم، وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد كما باركت على سيدنا إبراهيم وعلى آل سيدنا إبراهيم في العالمين إنك حميد مجيد. By the barakah of Sidi Shaykh Mohamed Faouzi al-Karkari قدس الله سره. Notes from lecture of March 7th, 2025, part 3. Before starting this video, I would like to say that this work would never have seen the light without Sidi Shaykh. If something is wrong, it will be from myself, and everything that is correct is from Sidi Shaykh. In the previous parts of this lecture, Sidi Shaykh discussed the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, in which he asks God to place light in his heart, in his hearing, in his sight, in his hand, etc., until he says, "And make me light and magnify light for me." He explained how the disciple can have a 360-degree vision like the Prophet ﷺ, and the role of this hadith in establishing prayer, إقامة الصلاة, rather than making up prayer, قضاء الصلاة. In this part, Sidi Shaykh continued the explanation of this hadith. He mentioned that when the disciple reaches the state of seeing the light as a pearly star, a niche, or a glass, this does not signify the end of the journey. The matter is certainly not ended there. He emphasized the importance of immersing or diving غوص into the light. He explained that immersion, غوص, does not mean placing one thing within another. Rather, it signifies immersing oneself completely, directing attention solely to light upon light, نور على نور, without turning aside, without iltifat. Consequently, one's surroundings, right, left, above, and below, become entirely light. When a person reaches the state of being embodied, as if existing as a body within the very heart of the light, their sight and vision become unified, and they begin to see with all sides, as if they are the center of the circle, and the body is all eye. At that point, their vision becomes spirit, ruh, and becomes light, nur. Thus, they see with their hands, their hair, their feet, etc. This is also clear in the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, when he said, "And make my hair light and my skin light." When the Prophet asked for this, he didn't want a transparent body. Rather, he wanted a body that would be an eye for the light of the Creator subhanahu wa ta'ala. This means that the supplication was fulfilled in the Prophet's presence. Thus, his hair became light, his skin became light, his back, his bones, his front became all light. His whole body became a pearly star, كوكب ذري. He then could see what was behind, what was above, and what was below. Those who were with him at that time saw him as a body and described him as a human, but he, with the eye of light and with a pearly star, could see everyone around him, behind him, and in front of him. Sidi Shaykh added that if one's skin and hair are light, but one's flesh, bones, and nerves are not, it is as if one has a weakness in their sight, as if one has an eye, but the retina is not working properly, like someone whose eye is present, but has lost the light of the sight. It was not the case of the Prophet ﷺ, as he supplicated the Most Merciful with a true supplication, progressing through stages and describing his body until his hair became light and his whole body became as if it were a luminous lens, like the lens of an eye, with which he could see everyone around him. Sidi Shaykh explained that the Prophet did not stop at that point, but rather said, "And make me light, وَاجْعَلْنِي نُور," signifying if my body preoccupies me, it is an eye for me, and if I am absent from my body, I'm journeying in the greatness of the light of my Lord. And make me light means that nothing remains. If only the body, hair, and skin become light, but God has not made the person himself light, then his light is fragmented in the parts of the body. But when he, sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam, said, "And make me light," the scattered light unifies, becoming whole, equal in strength, perception, sight, power, and insight. He then becomes entirely light. Sidi Shaykh continued the explanation of the next part of the hadith where the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam said, "And magnify for me light, وَعَظِّمْ لِي نُور." The light is not magnified except in the last stage, when the person becomes entirely a homogeneous light. A person may see the light and say that they magnify it. If they were to magnify the light, they would not let themselves fall into heedlessness, distance, disobedience, minor sins or major sins. So then, they would not have fallen into this except due to their heedlessness and lack of magnification for the light of God. Sidi Shaykh stated that this is normal to occur, as one sees the light in one direction and ignores it in another direction. See the light in a presence and ignores it in another presence. The Prophet ﷺ never parted the light, even for a blink of an eye, but he sees the light in all his states. He was described by the Creator and by his companions that he is light upon light, nur ala nur. Sidi Shaykh added that whomever God guides to his light, he guides them to Al-Mustafa sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam, to know him outwardly and inwardly. Sidi Shaykh referenced the scene between Sayyidina Umar alayhi salam and the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam. He stated that when someone tells a person that they love them, their response with adab would be, "May the one for whose sake you love us love you." As for the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam, when Sayyidina Umar alayhi salam held his hand and said to him, "I love you," the Prophet did not say, "May the one for whose sake you love us love you," but he linked the love of the Prophet and faith. He said to him, "No one believes." The words of the Prophet were not addressed to Sayyidina Umar alone, but were for everyone, far or near, for him and for those coming afterward. He said, "No one believes until I am dearer to him than himself." Sidi Shaykh explained the meaning of loving the Prophet more than oneself. He said that outwardly, it is to ransom the Prophet with one's soul. On the other hand, the reality of loving the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam more than oneself is for the person to not see their own existence at all. They do not see any percentage of their own existence at all. They do not see their shabah, their body, their image, their soul, their hearing, sight, speech, hands, and feet. They see only the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Such was the case of Sayyidina Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu, who said, "Whenever I gazed into the mirror, I beheld the Prophet." Sidi Shaykh observed that in this present era, such a declaration might be met with accusations of claiming prophethood, indulging in speculative interpretation, and subscribing to questionable concepts such as hulul, ittihad, and mazj, etc. Sidi Shaykh cautioned that such unfounded accusations can engender a black cloud on the heart, impeding true comprehension of Ibn Abbas' words. These words emanated from certainty and love for the Prophet ﷺ, reflecting a state of complete annihilation in the Prophet's love. Thus, his eye became the Prophet's, his hearing became the Prophet's, his skin became the Prophet's, and his hair became the Prophet's. Later in the lecture, Sidi Shaykh returned to speak about the vision of the light. He referenced the hadith of the Prophet, in which he said, "My companions are like stars. Whoever of them you follow, you are rightly guided." He did not specify al-Mubashirin or al-Khulafa of the Prophet. Everyone who saw the Prophet is a companion. It means that all the companions of the Prophet see the star. Following them guides to the shining lamp, as-Siraj al-Munir, to the sun and the moon of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. As for Ibn Abbas, He was not a star, but rather he was the outward form, خلقة, and the character, خلق, of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam. So that was all for this video. Alhamdulillah الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله. لقد جاءت رسل ربنا بالحق. اللهم لك الحمد، اللهم لك الحمد، اللهم لك الحمد. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد كما صليت على سيدنا إبراهيم وعلى آل سيدنا إبراهيم، وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد كما باركت على سيدنا إبراهيم وعلى آل سيدنا إبراهيم في العالمين إنك حميد مجيد. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون، وسلام على المرسلين، والحمد لله رب العالمين.